Welcome to the next episode of Conversations with Caleb's Dad by Caleb Jones and Terry Jones. Hi, Terry Jones.
Good day. How are you, my son?
I'm good. Today we're going to cover a few more analyses from my dad regarding Alpha Male 2.0. We're going to cover that. And if we have time, we have two or three other topics we kind of just talked about. If we don't get to those today, we'll do those in the next session. And by the way, my dad and I are both reading the comments that we are getting on these videos. So again, if you have suggestions for topics and or input on what myself or Mr. Terry Jones says, let us know. And if you have questions, let us know, because that can help guide us in terms of the topics for this. I have a rough list of topics based on some of the comments that we've gotten. I've also gotten some emails too. You guys really like this. So as long as you keep liking this and are engaged in these topics, we'll keep doing these. When it seems like you guys don't like this anymore, then we'll stop. So I'm willing to do this for the long term, as long as you guys stay engaged in terms of comments, questions, suggestions, and things like that. Do you have any comments to say about that, Dad, or no?
No, that's fine. I agree with that.
All right, go for it. You had questions for me.
Yeah, looking at your assertions concerning sexuality, I just want to react to a couple. You talk a lot about monogamy and whether it's functional or not.
Yep.
And if I am monogamous, you say that I'm going to be dominated by her. But I believe, again, you're putting men and women in boxes that don't work for me. I might allow her to dominate me, but I think what happens is it's my choice to behave the way I behave. I don't believe that it's always going to be true that she's going to gradually take over.
So again, there's no always, there is usually, and there is what is statistically probable based on what happens most of the time. So there's no always. There are indeed what I call alpha male 1.0s who are monogamous, and they're the ones who dominate the woman. The relationships do exist. That's kind of the 1950s style.
Wow.
Are those typical with monogamous relationships in the modern era? No, those are not typical. What is more typical in the modern era in the Western world is that the woman kind of wears the pants, and the husband or boyfriend, kind of follows around like a little puppy dog. I may be exaggerating, but that's not radically untrue. 70 to 80%, depending on the statistics and models you look at, of breakups between boyfriend, girlfriends, and divorces are initiated by the woman. Men don't want women to leave. Women leave men all the time. Men cheat more often than women, and women do cheat. We could talk about that if you wanted to. So men tend to be in monogamous relationships more needy, because this is the only source of sex and feminine energy and that level of emotional support. I can't get this anywhere else, so I cling to the woman. I'll give you a perfect example. So and interrupt me if I'm going off on a tangent, if you think that. One of my coaching programs had a guy in there where we talk about non-monogamy, and he wasn't having sex with anybody. He follows all my models, but he wasn't having sex. He started having sex with a new girl he really liked, and he immediately got off all the dating sites and stopped looking for any other girls. And he immediately started feeling what we call one-itis, which is where you were needy for that woman. He goes, I'm starting to feel needy and clingy for her. What do I do? I said, what you don't do is you don't stop dating women because you have one. You need to add 2 or 3 more, and then you wouldn't feel that way. And I said, did you feel that way before when you were having multiple women in your life? No. Right. So the default setting, not always, when a man gets monogamous with a woman after a time, it doesn't happen immediately. It could happen 6 months. It could happen 2 years later. Yes, he tends to feel more needy, more clingy, and have a more scarcity mentality around his woman life, because this is the only person. And on the flip side, women often don't feel that way. Sometimes they do, but often they don't. So yes, that is generally what does occur in monogamous relationships today.
I suppose that's possible. I would be inclined to accept that men become weaker, because I've always, as I told you, looked at men as boys in a man's body.
I agree.
And I don't feel like we ever grow up. And so
I partially agree with that.
if we get into a relationship long enough, that little boy is probably going to start to whine.
And testosterone, this is scientific, testosterone drops in a monogamous relationship after a while, even if your lifestyle remains the same. And if you have babies, it really drops.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad to have babies, but more data.
Concerning your reference to testosterone, I think I probably should tell our audience, because I had prostate cancer about 15 years ago, in about 25% of the cases, it returns, and that happened to me. So a year or two ago, PSA, test that we take for a blood test we take to determine if you have prostate cancer started to move again, showing the existence of cancer. So I said, okay, I've already been through radiation and I've had surgery to remove the prostate. What do you got left? And they said hormone therapy.
Yeah.
And it turns out that hormone therapy, maybe you know this, is really about going after the testosterone. As it turns out, the prostate cancer is unique cancer because it feeds off of testosterone. That isn't
Right.
true of most cancers.
Correct.
And so the good news is that I brought down the testosterone almost zero, and the prostate cancer has been controlled. So that's great. And I assume that'll stay that way as long as I use their injections, which they will give me whenever they think I need to avoid.
Yeah, what's funny is that you are taking injections to suppress your testosterone. I am taking injections to increase my testosterone.
Right, and there are some problems with that. I mean, if you're going to reduce the testosterone, your libido is going to die, and mine did.
Right.
Luckily, I'm in a relationship where that is the woman I love understands that, and we've developed a way to communicate sexually without traditional behavior. But anyway, I wanted the audience to know that I've had this experience with testosterone, and it's completely the opposite of your experience.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you about TRT, like, you know, before you got cancer a long time ago. And you're like, why? I'm 72 or whatever you were, and I don't give a shit. Right. Right. So that, just be aware, for those of you listening, that's also going to color our outlook on life. So Dad, I've had people in my audience. I talk about a thing called the 2% rule, where if you're scared, if I move to Dubai, what if I say fuck in public and they throw me in jail? Or if I come here to Paraguay, what if I get bit by a mosquito and get dengue fever, and all these scary things that Americans are scared of outside the United States? And I say, if you need to do the research, if it has less than 2% chance of happening to you, just proceed and ignore it. Now, if it's 10%, you need to figure that out and mitigate that and make some decisions. And I've had one or two people say, you know, you have to understand, Caleb, I'm not disagreeing with your 2% rule, Caleb, but Caleb, your testosterone is 1130, which is equivalent to an 18-year-old athlete. And when you have higher testosterone, your risk tolerance increases, which is true. It does. So you go, so your outlook on life is a little more bold because of your testosterone than quote a normal man. So their criticism is that, and it's not untrue, is that, you know, if you have high testosterone, low testosterone, your views on all these things will change.
So if you have high testosterone, you're going to be a risk taker.
More of a risk taker, yes. Yeah.
Ah.
And if you have really high testosterone, the risk is going to excite you. For example, this hasn't happened to me any time in the last many years because I'm an old man now. But if someone was going to physically threaten me, another man, I'm going to kick your ass, and it's in person, not on the internet. There's a little part of me that goes, yeah. And normally I'd be like, oh no. Most guys like, oh no, and they back away. And for me, I'm like, I have a martial arts background, as you know, so I'd be like, ooh, yeah, okay, all right, let's fight. So that's, yeah. So it doesn't make you a maniac. It makes you a maniac if you go above 1200, which I don't do, and I don't advise for anyone to do. If you go into these inhuman levels of testosterone, that's steroid use, and you have crazy guys who do maniac. So no, I'm not that level. But that's just, I'm giving you an example of the fact that we have very radically different testosterone levels are going to affect our viewpoints on things like sexuality, women, risk, maybe even business, international stuff, maybe. To your point.
I haven't found a change in attitude. I've just found a reduction in drive. So I don't know that it's changed the way I think or the way I approach life. It just has affected my interest in sex.
Is that the only thing it's affected?
No, I have some other symptoms. Is that what you mean?
No, in terms of emotions, you're having lower testosterone, your libido has dropped. Is there any other emotional changes that you have experienced since going on that medication, or not really?
I would say so. Yeah, I can sit and watch a movie that provokes you emotionally, and I can almost end up in tears.
Ah, okay. Okay, yeah. What is your estrogen levels like? Are those the same? Or are those elevated?
They haven't talked to me about it.
They
I
haven't
don't know.
taught. So probably they're probably the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Well, I have experienced that in the last 5, 6 years, once or twice, where I never had before. But that's because of my wife's influence on my learning how to be empathetic. So I've had moments where I see something on it, like, oh, just a little moment. I'm not going to cry, but I'm like, oh. I've had those moments where I haven't had those before, but that's not because of testosterone. That's because of personal
No.
growth.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Another thing you said to me that you have some trust in chat DBT, and I've been looking at it occasionally lately too, and it is very interesting to me. But one thing I looked there and asked about, because I didn't buy it, I do believe that the marriage rate has changed significantly in the
It
last
has.
10, 20 years.
Yep.
Uh, Simply one reason, as you point out in your writing, is that people are getting married later in life.
Mhm.
But Chat DBT doesn't agree with you. They don't agree with your 76% divorce rate. What they say is there's 14 divorces per 1,000 people.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
So
I don't know
first,
how to turn that into a percentage anyway.
oh, I can explain all that. I've been debating this topic for almost 20 years. Excuse me. The per capita divorce rate isn't useful. That's a per capita divorce rate. It's not
Yeah.
useful because that can be modified by all kinds of things, especially what you just said regarding things like people get married later in life, which means as a per capita rate, you have less people married. Therefore, there are less divorces. So if you have less people getting married, A, which you do, B, the fewer people getting married are waiting longer to get married. If you add those two things together, you're going to have less divorces per 1,000 people. Does that make sense so
Right.
far? All right.
Yeah.
So any per capita divorce rate is completely useless. What is relevant to this discussion is, what are my odds as a man living in the United States in 2025, and I'm in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and I want to get traditionally monogamously married? What are my statistical odds of ever getting divorced ever in my life from age 32 to age 100 when I die, or 90? Those odds are sky high. No one has an exact figure for this. My odds are, I think it's actually past 76%. It's around 80% or so. So the odds are 76 to 80-ish, somewhere percent. I forget the exact numbers because I have a lot of numbers in my head, that you will experience a divorce if you're getting married at age 20, 30, 40, whatever, and you live the average life expectancy, which right now is 80, but increases every year. At some point in the next 50 years, you're probably getting divorced. You might not get divorced next year. It might be 7 years down the road before you, it might be 22 years. It took me 9 years in my first marriage before I got divorced, but you're
I
probably going to
would,
get divorced.
I wouldn't be
Those are the
surprised if that,
statistics I'm talking about.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was true.
There you go.
One of the biggest reasons is because I'm very interested in personal growth and one's mental health. And uh, I know the history of this industry, of my industry. And back when I was a young man, when my mom and dad were young, they didn't go to counselors. They didn't ask themselves, should I confront this marriage? They were afraid to tip the scale in the direction of change. And so there are many, many reasons why
Yes.
people are more vulnerable to divorce. And I think
Right.
one of them is they speculate about options now.
Right.
Psychotherapy is a relatively new science.
Right. Therefore, my advice to men today in 2025 in the Western world is um, two things. Well, a few things. First, don't settle down with a woman at all until you're at least 35 years old. That helps statistically. When you're in your 20s, you're an idiot. And I was an idiot in my 20s. You probably weren't that great in your 20s. So there. Number two, if you do settle down with a woman, I call it the OLTR marriage. It's what I did with Alexis. Alexis is, by the way, guys, Pink Firefly's real name. It's fine if you know. You have two aspects of that marriage. Number one, it is not monogamous. You are allowed to have sex with other women on the side within a set of ground rules you both agree to. That way, there's no cheating. One of the biggest reasons for divorces is that men cheat and get caught, and people freak out, and then they get divorced. Now you can't cheat, so you've eliminated that option. Number two, you have a whole number of legal protections for when you get divorced, You don't lose all your money. You don't lose half your house. You don't lose your business. You're not forced to pay her $2,000 a month that you can't afford. You go to jail if you can't pay it. You still have to pay child support, but you have prenuptial protections in place, financial protection in place. You have separate finances. So if you have a breakup, you're okay. I've talked about how if her and I got divorced, and that's not my plan, I want to be with her for the rest of my life, but if we got divorced, it would cost me about $150, and that's it. Whereas my first marriage, when I didn't do any of these things, cost me a lot of money, even though I made less money back then.
Or
So
you have
that's
a
my
prenup,
advice
is
based
that
on this
why?
one. But
Because you have a prenup?
more than just a prenup, yes.
You have more than a prenup.
Oh yeah, I can't talk about it publicly, but I have more than a prenup. Yes, I have a
But
lot
you're
of
saying
paper.
that's why the divorce would be cheap.
Correct. I would pay a $150 filing fee at the county, and that's about it.
Okay.
And if I wanted to help her out, if I chose to give her money, which is how it's supposed to work, then I would. If it was amicable, I'd help her out. But that's my choice. Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned earlier today is about the comments that we're getting on the video,
Mhm.
and I've been enjoying those myself. One of them I thought was valuable because the man was saying to me, why can't you celebrate Caleb's happiness? You seem to be critical of it. And he's right, but it's not for exactly that reason. I do believe that you're happy. I've told you, I think you're one of the happiest men I know. But the work that you're doing is something you really want to offer to 5 or 10% of us. And
Yeah.
that's a really small group. And I don't want you to suffer by having been focused on a target so small. I want you to get as much from life as possible. So it worries me that maybe your happiness is at risk because
I
you're
don't understand what you said about why my happiness is at risk, because my target audience is 5 to 10% of men. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, to me, it's risky for you to be following the alpha male model
Why?
because you're only offering it to 5 or 10% of us.
Right.
I
Why is
want a
that? Why does
model.
that risk my happiness? That makes me very happy. If I had to offer this to 100% of men who are
Yeah.
bitching about Donald Trump and Israel, and that wouldn't make me happy at all.
Oh, I feel the different that I want as many options as possible. I don't want to be restricted to a target that's only really workable for 5 or 10% of us. I want to be able to take a chance in everything, and
Um,
I therefore have wanted that for my children too.
I see. That would not make me happy. I'm pretty self-aware. I can tell you for a fact that if I said I'm not going to target 100% of all men in the Western world to pursue things like non-monogamy and location independence and international lifestyle and anti-aging, and that would drive me insane. I would be so unhappy because I would be fighting, beta male pussies. My wife won't let me. I'd be fighting angry Trump supporters saying we have to defend America. I'd be fighting Christians. I'd be fighting socialists. I'd be fighting, people who from India who just moved to America saying America's great. It's so much better than India. I would be fighting everybody all day and I'd be fucking miserable. So no.
It makes me think of another thought, and that is that I've talked with you before about the different men's movements. I'm in a very different one than you are in. And the red pill is very different than I'm in. The Promise Keepers is a very different group than I'm in.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
group that I am in, which I call the mythopoetic men's movement, which was probably the most visible one, except for Promise Keepers, I think it got very visible. In the movement that I'm a part of, uh, I'm really not focused on a plan for my lifestyle. I'm just looking at how I live life. And one of the things we do, for example, is we look at the energy that we experience in our life. And I've read, and you probably have heard of 2 books that talk about king, warrior, magician,
Yep.
lover.
Yes. Of
And
course.
so in my community of men, we look at our king energy and our uh, magician energy and our lover energy. And we just try to get a better look at that. We don't really have a goal. Now, if a man has a goal, like he wants to recover from alcoholism, certainly we're advocates for that as well. But I think that's quite different than what you're talking about in terms of getting to that point of the Alpha 2.0.
And you're pursuing that because that's the phase of life that you're in. And as I've told you, I'm working to get closer to your phase than the phase that I'm in. I'm in a very magician warrior phase. Matter of fact, you know what? It might be fun to do a whole thing on king, magician, warrior, lover. That might be really valuable for my audience. We think about that.
Okay.
We should think about that. That'd be really good. They'd love
Yeah,
that.
it's been very meaningful to me. And to your
Yeah.
point, I got interested in that about age 50. And
Right.
from then on, yeah, so you're right.
Right.
Another thing about men in relationship, you say that too many men are happy when in relationship with one's wife only, uh, and that they'd be devastated when she leaves. If you pointed that out,
Correct.
very hard.
Yep.
This can happen, but what can a man do about continuing his happy experience?
If a woman leaves him,
Yeah,
if he was monogamous,
yeah.
he's fucked. He shouldn't have been monogamous. So if you're not, so here's the deal. If you're not monogamous, if you got 3 women, I'm just giving you an example. You got 3 women and one leaves. Are you suicidal and crying for 6 months? No, you might be upset, but you got 2 more. But if you're monogamous and you got one and you're 100% of all your energies in that one, with the divorce rates and breakup rates the way they are now, that's kind of silly. So when she leaves, and it really is when, not if, you're going to be depressed for 3 years. And a lot of guys in my audience have been through this. Some of you guys are going through this right now because you were monogamous. Had you followed my advice to begin with, and a lot of guys don't follow me until this already happens, so it's not their fault. But that's the answer. That's to prevent these problems.
I imagined telling your mother, who I was married to for 47 years,
Yeah.
saying to her, given what I've heard from Caleb Jones and his theories, it might be good for me to have other lovers.
Mhm.
That would be a pretty dangerous thing for me to say to your mother. That it would scare her to death. It wouldn't improve my relationship.
So you have different models for different people in different places of life. So if you are not yet married and not yet have a girlfriend, this isn't relevant to you. You can set up my model set and you never have this problem. If you are monogamous and married, and then you find my materials, you go, oh shit, this sounds really good, but I'm already monogamous and what do I do? I have an entire book. Well, it's a section of one of my entire books on conversion models, how to convert your monogamous relationship to a non-monogamous relationship.
Oh.
And we have a 70% success rate with guys doing that.
Wow.
Yeah.
One way that I look at this theory of yours, because luckily we had this chance to be in this video series, and it's given me an opportunity to really study it better, what you've been teaching people. One of the things that I think about is the fact that I've been involved in 4 different committed relationships, 3 marriages, and maybe another one before I die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've asked myself, so what the hell is that about? Are you just clumsy and slopping from one marriage?
No, Dad, it means you're normal. You were never designed to be lifetime monogamous, so you're normal and you're healthy.
It could be, but I have learned from each one of those relationships something that made the next relationship more satisfying.
Agree.
So in a way, divorce is a good tool. You spend time with one woman, divorce her, go on to the next one, use those new skills and build that relationship.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying while you go through these divorces and breakups, you don't have to be monogamous.
No, I understand that. That's a different.
Because I had the same experience. So before Alexis, I can't say her name, the Asian girl, if you remember her, for many years. And I learned things from that relationship that improved my relationship now with my wife now.
Yeah, yeah.
But exactly. I wasn't monogamous.
Right.
I was having a great old time with her.
Well, one of the things that you and I are different that way. When I was dating in between those marriages, I only wanted to be with one woman. I couldn't do more than one at a time.
Again, you were late 70s at that point.
No, I'm talking about all 4 marriages.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, so going back to your whole life. Yeah. Most normal men raised in the Western world where you are trained monogamy is how you do it, and that's how you do it, the Bible says this, are going to default to, I would prefer to be monogamous. Yes. And they hear my ideas, they go, what? Right.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to. It's personal. And this is an obvious answer for just about all men with rare exception. When you were in these 4 relationships, once the relationships were several years old, not the beginning, did you have sexual desires for other women? I'm not saying you did anything, but did you have the desire?
I did
never have desire for any other women.
No,
when you were married to Mom for 47 years.
Out of 3 marriages, only once.
Okay. Well, that's very rare. You're unique. You're in a rare category if that's true. But okay, the fact that it was once tells you, okay. that you wanted to do it. Because when I was married to my first marriage that was monogamous and traditional, it wasn't every day, but often. Oh my God, it'd be so great if I could play with her. I can't though, because I'm monogamous. Oh, and that's most married men in the modern era today.
No, I never have dwelled on it that way.
Not dwelt on it. I didn't say dwelt. Did you
You
have
said
it?
every day. You said every day.
No, I didn't say, I said not every day. It wasn't every day. It wasn't
Oh,
all the
was it?
time, but it was more than once in that 9-year marriage. I was married for 9 years. More than once, I'd be like, oh, damn it. I can't do that. Okay, I won't. I grit my teeth and say, okay. And most, not all, most men in long-term monogamous relationships in the modern era have those feelings. And the fact that those feelings even exist should tell you you're probably doing this wrong. You're doing something against the way your mind and body was designed.
Again, I can't argue with that because I think I'm a little boy in a man's body.
Well, I am too.
That's the way a little boy thinks. Should I go get some ice cream? Maybe it wouldn't be a good idea. But mom,
well, you're just saying why the problem exists, and I'm just saying the problem exists. If human beings, and you already know this, you know this more than I do. If human beings were designed to be monogamous to one person for 57 years, that's how we were designed. This wouldn't be a thing. Divorce wouldn't be a thing, be very rare. Cheating wouldn't be a thing. Men going to watching porn, married men watching, wouldn't be a thing. No men would do any of these things. But almost all men do these things because we're forcing a model set that we were never, ever, ever designed to do. Long term. Short term, yes. You can be monogamous 2 or 3 years.
I think that statement is risky for you because there's no way we can look into research and find out that that's true about men originally, what they were designed.
Yes, I've given you the research. Yes, there's tons of research, Ted.
No, I mean the original men.
The original, I mean, cavemen?
Yeah.
Cavemen were not monogamous for
How do you know
57
that?
years. They didn't even live 57
You
years.
don't know that.
Yes, I do know that.
Where'd you find that out?
There's all kinds of anthropologists write books. They have records.
I know my point is anthropologists are theorizing what they judge is true from archaeological experience. They haven't really
Okay.
spoken to the caveman.
Could anthropologists be wrong? Of course. But
Yeah.
let's look at this. Let's just look at this rationally. From what we know of men and women, rewind 150,000 years, there's a tribe of 35 people, half men, half women. And there's a bunch of teenage boys in that tribe. Okay. And they like a girl and they get a girlfriend. They're only fucking her forever, his whole life, until he dies at age 30. What do you think? What is the most probable?
I don't know that means that's what men are designed to do. I think that's what men do. That's probably the difference between you and
If
I.
men do that, absence a rule set, absence a religion or a government that says you can't do this, you can only do that. If that's what men do, probably what they were designed to do, right?
I think it's probably true, but I don't have any way of proving that. When you say that's true, you can't really prove that.
All right, that is most likely true, 95%. I could be wrong. By the way, I've said this in my books. I could be wrong. There's a small percentage chance, 5%,
Right.
10%, that I could be wrong. Sure.
Yeah, and again, as your advocate, I don't want you to take risks like that. I want you to
It's
sell.
not a risk. If I think I'm 90% accurate, that's not a risk. I'm good.
I think it is. It's riskier than being
All
sure.
the data and all my anecdotal experience and thousands of men I've talked to all verify everything I'm saying. I don't see thousands upon thousands of men in America in 2025 having 30, 40, 50-year monogamous relationships that work out great. Do you?
No,
I don't see it. I don't see it.
I don't think I can.
Well, then what does that tell you? What does that indicate? Does that indicate Caleb might be wrong, or does that indicate Caleb's probably right?
Very possibly you're right.
I'm likely right 90% plus, which means to me that's not a risk. Oh no, Caleb's taking a risk. There's a 10% chance he might be wrong, so he's taking a risk. I'm worried about him.
But
I know you're being a good dad, but
I struggle with my history. I have been in the science of helping people grow and change. And when I look at a client who wants to be happier or solve problems, I don't want to put them in any kind of box and look at him like, well, you're probably having sex with other people because you're a male. I just want to be with him in the moment. And that therefore doesn't allow me.
Then what I would do as a therapist, and I'm not, and I never will be, is I would say, Okay, you're married. Okay, Joe. So you're married and you have these sexual feelings for other women. Yeah. Would it be honest with me, Joe? Would it make you happier if your wife let you play with these other women, but you could stay with your wife and she was cool with it? Would that make you happier or less happy? What do you think Joe would say? Be
Oh,
honest.
I wouldn't ask that question, but I can tell you what Joe would say.
Aha. We both know what Joe would say because
Yeah,
Joe is designed a certain way, just like I am, just like you are, just like most men are, to
yeah.
want and act in a certain way. So if that's the way that men, if that's secretly what men really want, is to have several girls, but keep the main one. That's what men want, by the way. Then let's develop a model, which I did 15 years ago, where men can have that and develop in a way where people are honest and there's low drama and there's caring and loving and support and there's maturity and we can do this and it works.
One of the things that you've taught me is that I am biased. It took me 80 years to get to this place where I'm biased about different things. But I think one reason why I'm not totally comfortable with what your theory is that my biases can't be true. And
Right.
I'm not any more accurate therefore than you are.
Right. Well, that's emotional bias, and we all have that, especially today. Americans are the most biased people on earth now with politics and stuff. Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
the
What
biggest
I do is
shock.
I look at the data first, and then I try to. I'm not 100% perfect at this. I'm still human. But instead of saying I'm a Christian and therefore monogamy is the best, so I'm going to look at this facts and data to back up my Christianity, or I'm a feminist socialist and I'm going to look at the data that prove that feminism, social, I don't do that. Instead, I say I'm not sure. Let's look at the data and let's be empirical. Let's see what the data tells us, and then let's follow what the data tells us, irrelevant of my personal feelings.
No, I hear you. All right, those are my sex questions. What else would you like to talk?
um, we've had some questions about how does a man get started in the spiritual side of his life? So let me give you my quickie thing on that, and then we can discuss. I think I mentioned this to you before. So it is my opinion, interesting to hear what you think about this, that a man in the modern era in the Western world, now, if you're a Buddhist monk, that's different, but none of us are Buddhist monks. So if you're an American, Canadian, European, Australian in 2020s, I don't think it's a good idea to spend a lot of time on your spiritual life until you are at least 50. And I was saying that when I was in my 30s and 40s. So this has nothing to do with my age. And I haven't even started. I'm 53. I haven't really started with this. I'm a little bit. And the reason for that is when I see men get into their spiritual life in their 20s and 30s, and even sometimes their 40s, they jump to a religion. And religion is not spirituality. Religion is a set of man-made bullshit rules from a book that was thousands of years old. That's a bunch of fairy tales. It doesn't matter which religion it is. Judaism, Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, it doesn't matter. Buddhism, it doesn't matter. And so they get really into the religion and then they sit in the religion. Now they're mad at the whole world for not being Islam or not being Catholic or not being Christian or not being whatever. That's what I see men do when they try to become spiritual pre-50. I think once you're past 50, the men I've seen, including you, who are a little older, and then they get into that world, have a much happier experience with it. That's my opinion. I'm not saying that definitively. I could be wrong. What do you think?
It taps another bias. I have the same bias that religion interferes in spirituality.
I agree.
Because again, as you pointed out, it's a structure, it's an organization, it's a corporation, and it's got a lot of rules, and that doesn't appeal to me in my journey. Now, so let me go back and clarify a little bit about my belief system, and then I can say more clearly, I think, about launching one's spiritual life. I have the impression that a lot of people talk about being in life on a spiritual journey. For me, it's the other way around. I'm a spiritual person on a human journey. I have this idea that I pre-existed as a spiritual being, and when I'm done as a human, I'll go back to that and I'll continue. And so what I believe, and I've read some people who agree with this, that's where I got the idea. And I said, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. I wanted to be more complete. I was a spiritual being, and I can see, well, but I don't know what it's like to be human. So I decided to be human. And I made that transition into the human condition, forgot that I was a spiritual being, and have been on a journey my whole life about understanding what it's like to be human. And I've found that for me, that human journey has drawn me to the spiritual life. It left me with kind of a hunger for something I didn't understand, but I could feel. And you're right, it didn't until I got my business in order and my family started to develop. A lot of my kids started to develop their own lives and could take care of themselves around my 50s. I began to say, okay, look, give this a little more attention. What is this energy that you're feeling, but you can't explain? And so I have found that number one, I happen to have a intimate relationship to God. I talk to God every day. I have also found that there are times when I ask God for things. Most of the time I don't give any feedback, but every once in a while something will happen in my life that's very special. And it says to me, that was a gift. And it may have come from the fact that I talk with God every day. I don't know, but I feel like that came from a place that I don't understand, that is beyond me, a place of power. And so I found myself spiritually looking at the role of an older person in society. Because for me, it has developed into this theory I've told you about, you've read about, the elder, the ancient elder, and what kind of energy the ancient elder can offer, any elder can offer to the community because we've had such a long life experience. And for me, the elder journey and the spiritual life are intertwined so that I have not only an interest in being more connected to the universe, but I also want to be more active as a person who's lived a long life and might have something to give back. And those two things are caught together. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So for me, I think to answer the question, how does one launch their spiritual life? I think you're right. I think it needs to come at a different time of life. I mean, if you're in your 20s, for me, the 20s, I used to call them the dark ages. It was so complicated for me. And it would have been a bad time to lock down on any kind of spiritual theory or religious theory. Somehow, like you, I came through that believing that churches were not the answer because I tried a few. I was baptized in 4 different churches, and I was really curious, but I found, like you, that that was too much of a restriction. It needed to be more private, more personal, and I forgot where I was going with that thought, but that's it.
What advice do we have for men who are under 50 who feel I have my own answer, but who feel that part of their life is missing and they want to do something with that part of their life and they're well under 50 and they are, according to you and me, at least our opinions, they're not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
I have an answer. Do you have an answer or no?
I would seek an advocate. I would go find an advocate because there is
What
another
does that mean?
a person who can help me answer that question. Who am I? What is this feeling? Who am I spiritually? There is a whole community of professionals out there called spiritual directors. These people there's hundreds of them in every state. I was one for a while. What you do is you get trained to be an advocate for other people's spiritual life. And then they come and sit with you, kind of like a counselor, except that you don't counsel, you listen. And the person is able to bounce off of you ideas about who they are as a spiritual person. And so going to see a spiritual director, which incidentally you might pay for, it could be 50, $100 an hour, just like going to a counselor. My best friend, as you know, is a priest. And he's a very unusual priest because he doesn't believe in a lot of what the Catholic Church tells him to believe. He and I believe that we were born good. So we don't need a savior. We don't need Jesus. We were already in good shape. Now, clearly we're humans, so we made a lot of mistakes, but we don't need to be saved by some other force. And that wipes out most religions right there, because a lot of them are based on Jesus and the idea that Jesus is going to save you. And I don't believe Jesus ever said that. I think we set Jesus up all the time. I feel sorry for the guy. I mean, oh my God, he's saying, I didn't say that. Why do people quote me that way? And so I think that, to answer the question, if I have this curiosity around 50, to go ask somebody to talk with me about it and to let me talk and let you respond to me. Let me be with you and be quiet. Let me be with you in a spiritual way and see if it grows or develops into something.
I didn't know that existed. How does one go about finding someone? They just search on spiritual director, they Google it?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. There's some advice for you guys under 50. If you really, want guidance in this part of life. That's really cool. I didn't know anything about this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And if anyone wants me to help them, just have them contact me through you, because I know people in that science and they can help find people in their geography.
Do you want to give out your email publicly or no?
Sure.
Okay, so guys, make a note of this. I'll put this in the description of this video as well. So if someone wants to reach out to you, your email address is
elderwithin1 I'll spell that. ELDERWITHIN, the number one at Gmail.
at gmail.com. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you have any interest in this, hit him up. Be sure to identify yourself as I saw you on Caleb's YouTube video or podcast, so he knows who you are. He gets a lot of email just like all of us. So cool. Okay, that's great. Wow,
I
that's
got
awesome.
that. I think, let me tell them, I got that name for the email from the book I wrote. That's the title of my book, my first major book, The Elder Within. And I got there in part because my best friend now, I've known him for 40 years, he was my first spiritual director. I went to him with that in mind, but as we spent time together, we began to shift into being good friends, and eventually he was no longer my director, he was my friend. And but that's how I started with him.
What about men who are my age or older? So men who are, let's say, over the age of 47, 48, and they feel like they're ready to move in that direction.
Uh-huh.
What do you suggest for them?
Same thing.
Same thing.
Go to a place where people are processing that same idea and get help. There you can go to workshops like that. For example, at that time of my life, you may remember this, in my 50s, I went to Hawaii for 10 days. And
Yeah.
I was in a workshop with a bunch of people who were trying to answer the same questions you're pointing out.
Yep.
And so through a series of processes that were guided by the facilitators for that workshop, I was able to go within and go with other people, walk with them and talk to myself and talk with them, spend time just in the quiet with no questions. And gradually I began to focus that energy in a way that felt to me like I was connecting to God.
That trip to Hawaii completely changed your life. I remember that. That was a long time ago too. I remember it in detail. You were a changed man when you came back.
I was lucky. And I took your mother there a couple of years later. And she and I are so different that she just sat there kind of staring like, what the hell are these people?
Yeah, she didn't like it. I remember that too.
Yeah.
So let me summarize that really quick for those of you listening. So how old were you? Were you in your late 40s, early 50s? Were you about my age when that happened? Right?
About 48.
Yeah. Oh, so when my dad was about 48, he was a self-employed guy, ran a company, spent, his time working and building a big family. And then you went on a retreat it was a spiritual retreat to Hawaii for like 4 days, right? It was several days.
10
right?
days.
Huh? 10? Oh, shit. Wow, it's 10 days. Okay, 10 days. And what was the topic, the main thrust of the retreat? What was the main thrust of the retreat? Do you remember? You must remember. This
No,
thing changed your life.
I don't remember the Tyler retreat, but I know why we were all there.
Okay, why? Summarize it.
We were trying to answer the question, what is this feeling? What is this idea that I have that I am uh, bigger than myself, that I'm connected to something universal? That we all had a feeling we couldn't describe very well that we wanted to put together, and we had the idea that it had something to do with spirituality.
Okay, perfect. So for people who had this feeling and didn't know where to direct it, and you were gone for 10 days, and yeah, just so you guys know, my dad came back a changed man. He was never the same. Completely different. You were much more at peace. If you remember, Dad, you did this thing where you one of the things you did when you're coming off the high of this event, you did this for a long time. You would carry around Hershey's Kisses. You remember this?
No.
Oh, you don't remember? Oh, this would be fun. I remember this. So what my dad would do is he'd carry around a bag of Hershey's Kisses just everywhere he went. And every time he interacted with anybody, the grocery store person, to tear out the bank, he would give them a Hershey's Kiss and then say, "This is for you." And they go, "Oh, thank you." And he loved it. And you did that for months. And you just liked the people, their faces lit up. And you did that to be more connected to people.
It's right. And it worked for me. One of the biggest changes in my life was for the first half of my life, I was very judgmental,
Yeah.
boringly judgmental.
Yeah.
My biggest frustration was auto guys who sold cars. They drove me crazy.
Oh, you got so angry. I know. I saw that.
I had them in a box, and I just tore them up. And what happened after I began to develop more clarity about myself spiritually is the judgmental went away, and it's been a much happier experience.
Yes. I've told my audience that you were pre-age 48, what I call alpha male 1.0. You were the tough, angry alpha male who was reactive because you were very reactive. My favorite thing to watch, your other children were scared. I thought it was funny when we would go to the pool and the lifeguard would correct one of the children, one of your children, and you'd go, "Whoa," and you just start screaming at the lifeguard. And all the kids would, all my brothers would shrink. "Oh shit, Dad's screaming at the lifeguard again." And I'd be like, things like that. Or if a kid in school called one of my sisters a name, you would go to the school, then you take the day off work and you would go to the school and you'd walk around the halls. I remember you doing this once, and you'd look for that kid. But yes, when you made this transition in your late 40s, early 50s, almost all that went away, right?
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
Yeah, what I used to say, you know this, before I got to that point, I would say, "God damn it."
No,
because
you would say, when I was little, not when I was a teenager. When you were little, you'd say worse than "God damn it." You'd say, "Damn it all. Damn it all." That was your favorite thing when I was little.
I was scared to death.
Man, you were so pissed.
I was building my life. I had no idea I wanted to get married. I had no idea I wanted to have children. That was all your
I know.
And so I got scared all the time about all these challenges in life. And
God damn it all. I would be downstairs. I hear it. Damn it all. One of my sisters or the sink would break, or you'd be arguing with Mom. God damn it all. Yeah, that was great. But you haven't said anything like that in 40 years.
yeah, that fear is really diminished because I'm connected. As I told you, though, if I had to answer why am I here, why am I living, it's because of a need to be connected. That's why I think we are all here. And so I do whatever I can. For example, this week I've got a yard full of fruit trees. So I got so much fruit, I've been going door to door handing out fruit in my neighborhood.
For free?
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing the same thing with the Hershey Kisses. So you're just handing out fruit?
There you go. I'm still doing it.
You're still what kind of fruit is it? I forgot. I've seen your trees.
Oh, first plums, now peaches.
Peaches. So you're going around the neighborhood giving people peaches?
Yeah.
Great. I am feeling, now that I am moving into this phase of my life slowly, I'm not going to really do this until April of next year, hopefully, because I have some goals, which I've talked to you about. But I'm getting excited about this. I'm going to write a book next year about this, about philosophy and spirituality. I've already messed around with some sample chapters in my spare time, which I don't really have very much lately right now. So anyway, um, and the and this is also for you listening. The feeling of connection uh, resonates 100%. I feel much more connected to the world now than I did before. Now that I'm moving in
Wow.
this phase of my life,
Wow.
when I see the stars, when I see the sun, the moon, when I see the trees outside, when I walk around and there's other people, people's a little different category for me, but especially nature and just not even nature, but just the air. I feel way more connected now. Instead of a separate "I'm Caleb," it's more of I'm a piece of this. So yeah, so when you say feel more connected, I relate that a lot.
That's really wonderful. And you know what? If you told your brothers that, they would say bullshit. They wouldn't believe that about you.
Well, right. I'm not, yeah, I would say that about me because I'm not, yeah, it's going to take me a while and it's not, I'm in no rush. And I like the way I am. I'm not trying to run from anything. Unlike you, the last several decades of my life have been pretty good. The last 2 decades, at least, have been really good. So I'm not trying to change radically. I'm just trying to, what I call self-actualization phase.
Yeah.
The last piece of me that is incomplete is this spiritual piece. But I have a
That
lot of stuff there already.
that
So I'm
makes
just,
me feel really good. I'm so pleased to hear that. And I had never really thought about it. I suppose you're right that if you're around this age, that hunger starts to build.
I keep hearing now that I've heard it from several different people on the internet, that 50s is prime time for a man. I used to say 40s was prime time, but I think 40s is a prime earning time. I don't know if 40s is prime time for a man. I keep hearing today, now that men are older and getting older, and we're looking younger and living longer and shit like that. And 50s. Matter of fact, I was talking to John, mom's brother, and he said the same thing. He's like, no, 50s that's the decade. That's the kick-ass amazing decade for men to
Well,
really.
I've told you that I run into this so often, what you just said, that I try to say to a person who is questioning life at that point that this would be something to celebrate and to go into and look at. Because if you don't do it then and you put it off, you'll probably never do it. You'll be stuck with what you
Oh,
had the first half of your life. But
right.
but so many of us get to that point at midlife that it's a wonderful time. It's a crisis, but it's also a wonderful opportunity to really figure out what you want, where you've been, where you're going.
One of my affirmations I listen to now, my own voice, is um, working this hard on these things my 50s is the perfect time of my life to do this. Because one of the beliefs I had a few years ago was, why am I doing this? I'm in my 50s. Shouldn't I just be sitting and watching football? I'm in my 50s. There was a thought in the back of my head. Shouldn't I be winding down and just kind of sitting on my ass because I'm in my 50s? It's a false thought. I don't agree, but I had that thought. So to rewire that thought
Hmm.
is, no, this is the perfect time of my life to be working on exactly what I'm working on.
Another part of my spirituality that we've talked about briefly before is I am what I call animist. Uh, First place I really recall the importance of it is when I was married to your mother early in the marriage, um, because she was Catholic. Catholics believe if you were married before, you should have the other marriage annulled,
Yeah,
and therefore to focus on the present wife. So
right.
I went to a priest that I respected in Portland, and I told him, okay, I'm feeling a pressure from this Catholic world to annul my first marriage. What do you think? And he said, did you love that first wife? I said, yeah. He said, well, to hell with it then. And he used his language, that word language. He said that those rules don't fit you. You can't dump a love relationship. You can't end it just because there's a church that says you would,
Well, yes, you can.
huh?
Yes, you can. I
No,
loved my first wife, but I
yeah.
didn't at the end. Well, I did at the end, but within a few months after it was over, I stopped loving her. I don't love her now.
Well,
That
I
was
think
20 years
I'm
ago.
talking about the majority of the time you were with her, you
Yeah.
wanted to be there with her. And that's a memory I don't want to lose in my
Oh,
life.
I see.
I don't want to dump that just because I found another woman to
I
be with.
understand. Okay.
And now here's the problem. This same man that I thought was very loving, very clear with me, despite the fact that he was a priest in a really anal religion, the Catholic Church,
Yep.
he we were talking about conversion. I don't know why we got into this topic, but it was on a different day. And um, if you talk to a Catholic, they like to see people convert from wherever
Yes.
they are into the Catholic faith, right?
Yep.
And that process about 6 months, they tell me. He told me that he used to work in Africa. And he said we would try to convert them, and it would take us years because they were so caught up in believing that God was in rocks and God was in water and
Oh
God was in.
no.
And I said, my God, I've just lost this man. I respect so much.
Yeah. Oh shit. God is in the rocks. Where the fuck do you think rocks came from? God's everywhere. I mean, not the Judeo-Christian God. No, but yeah, everyone has a different definition for God. I do, but oh, that's so funny.
It's a
Yeah.
spiritual issue. For what I'm saying is there's spiritual energy everywhere, and I feel it. And I wish that Catholic priest would know better than to leave those African people alone.
We've been going an hour. Let's wrap this up. Do you have any final words?
No, I like the way we've gone through this today. I think we've completed our thoughts on each one. And I keep learning from you about my bias. You're really pushing my edges. And I have had to look at what it is that I am narrow in terms of my belief system. Not all of it, but sometimes.
I think being extremely biased, irrationally so, has become not a Western norm, maybe, but an American norm. I think it's a very American 2020s thing. Is one of the problems I have with my ex-fellow countrymen. I don't really consider myself an American anymore, but
Well,
is
it's not African and it isn't Asian, so you're probably right.
well, and it's not even it's not even like Germany. There's some of that stuff. I mean, it's not even Western, although Western too, British people have a problem with this too, but it's very strongly American. The modern day American takes a stand. It doesn't matter if it's rational or makes any sense, and says, fuck you, this is my stand. Here's data showing that maybe, no, and then they start calling you names. And
Well, we have talked about the book I read recently called Caste. And this book, this author compares India, which is in a caste system, to Nazi Germany, to America. The Nazis like the way we behave like that. And they were studying us to build their own philosophy. I mean, we are so unable to allow people to be themselves. This country has been dangerous to every person from other cultures forever, and we're still that way.
That gets in politics. No, I mean, black people have it pretty good in America as compared to Africa. But are there problems with that? Yeah.
As a Caucasian, I don't give those people every break that they deserve. American Caucasians are very difficult people.
American Caucasians are very difficult people. Well, they are now. They weren't that way 35 years ago.
Are you kidding?
No. Well, you're talking about racism? It depends what you're talking about.
Of course. Look at what we did to
racism. Again, no. White Western Americans are among the least racist race. And I say that as an international man. Asians are very racist. A lot of black people in Africa are extremely racist. People in Ukraine, ridiculously racist. A lot of people here in the Latin world, very racist.
Well, when I say that Caucasian Americans are a problem, I'm not saying that they're not a problem in Asia. I live here. I was raised to not know that I was biased.
I see your point.
I was raised to be told that Columbus was a good guy. Yeah, I'm sure that
it's a problem. Right. I agree on that one. Columbus was an asshole. Right. That's true.
I'm just saying in my country,
I see.
We're a problem.
I see. You're saying the American advertising was that we are this and we're actually that.
I've actually gone out to buy history books, United States history books, to see when, if ever, we started saying things like, Columbus was a little more complicated than we've been clarifying. Yeah. And it didn't come out until very, very recent.
Yeah, like the 2000s, I think. Yeah. Well, we can talk about that on our next one too, if you wanted to. If we get into politics. You guys tell me if you want us to discuss politics or not. Maybe not. But as
No,
usual,
I don't,
guys.
no, I don't want to talk politics.
All
So
right. Never mind. No politics.
when I talk to you about bias and being dangerous to people of other cultures, that's an emotional, psychological condition. It's not a political position, not at all. It's based on my fear.
I agree, because I have the same criticisms of the left, American left, as I do with modern American Trump supporters. They are both now, it wasn't always like this, but now in 2025, they're both pretty much as insane. And they're both irrational, and they're both fuck you, and they're both, I don't care about the facts. I don't want to hear about this. I've picked this thing I am, and everyone else is wrong. And if you're wrong, you're a bad person. And they're both equally insane about that. So it is an American condition. It is not a left-right condition.
Yeah, I believe in the last 10 years, Americans have just thrown in the towel.
That is accurate. Especially when it comes to voting.
They're not rational anymore. They're all very emotional.
Correct.
It's very uncomfortable to watch.
We live in the age, America anyway, in the age of emotionalism. Where I live in Dubai and Paraguay, they're not like that. But America, yes, it's emotionalists. Yeah, that's correct. That's why I'm not there anymore. And you're in your 80s, so you're different. You can stay there if you want. Because I say, I say to my audience, if you're in your 80s, then do whatever you want. But if you're, in your 40s, 50s, 30s, 20s, time to leave. My son already left. My daughter's working on it. Cool. All right. So as usual, guys, leave a comment as to any directions you want us to take this. Every time we do one of these, Dad, I have more ideas for what to talk about in the future. This is good. So we'll just keep doing this.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in about a week.
Thank you, son.